Hi, I'm Tina White with the Asheville View, and I am here today with three leaders in our community. Dewana Little is the Executive Director at the YMI Cultural Center. Jennifer Pickering is the Executive Director at Leaf Global Arts. And Jefferson Ellison is the owner and creative director of a PR firm here in Asheville, Jawbreaking. So what we all share in common is that we produce shared space for the community, whether it's buildings, whether it's events, or whether it's virtual events. And I wanted to talk to you about the challenges you're facing and that the city's facing with the loss of some really sacred space that we have used in the past to come together and build community and support one another. Dewana, let me start with you. At YMI, you curate both a physical space, but then you also run Goombay and other events. What has this year been like for you in adjusting to COVID?
It has been a wonderfully interesting year, but it also came with its hardships around how we do what we do best and how we still be inclusive of community, which so much of our work is grounded in. We center community with our work. We are more specific to the Black community, but they are the center of our work. So for us not being able to have events and activities going on or being able to do it at a limited capacity, like we were able to host a summer camp program this summer, but it was at limited capacity, and it really limits how we do what we do. But we're looking at different platforms and different ways to engage and be able to still do the work and service community and be able to allow community to our space with the constraints of COVID and safety measures. But it's an adjustment. It's definitely an adjustment. Not being able to have Goombay has been an adjustment. But at the same time, having the opportunity to think collaboratively and work with Reach Across the Street and work with Leaf, and to be able to do this event as a substitution for what we would generally do as agencies is super exciting. So I'm just excited about our event of Reimagine in 2020.
Jefferson, are you involved in Reimagine?
Oh, yes.
I thought so. Can you tell us about it? When is it? And what's it going to be?
So Reimagine is our attempt to reimagine. We're going to reimagine 2020, and we're going to meet people where they are to do what these two agencies do best. I think what Leaf and the YMI have in common is that they really fight and advocate for equity, and they also uplift communities, and without coming from a place of less than, right? We are advocating for people to be who they are, to showcase themselves, to showcase their art, and whatever way makes you comfortable. You know, we're following the CDC guidelines, we're following what the county and the city ask of us. And that means that we can do small, in-person, socially distanced, mask-wearing events. And if that's something that you're uncomfortable with, that's amazing. And then you get to experience all of it online. And so, you know, what I was saying earlier was these two organizations have chosen not to ask more of people that as they show up as their best selves. And so Reimagine 2020, which is happening October 3rd and 4th, is going to be a chance for us to bridge a gap that's happened because of COVID, but it's also going to give us a chance to bring some joy and some light to a community that's really been suffering because we haven't been able to do the things that bring us a lot of happiness.
Jennifer, you I think have been running events longer than any of us here in Asheville. Is that a safe bet?
Well, it's a pretty safe bet considering it's been 25 years, and I think Jefferson, I don't know if you were doing it when you were really young, but maybe. It has been a long, beautiful journey, and it has really this was our, as we stepped into this year, it is our 25th year since Leaf started, and we were poised to celebrate our 50th Leaf Festival, and our sixth Leaf downtown, and we just reopened Leaf Global right across the street from the YMI. And so we started with a lot of really hope and energy and all these pieces. And so it's definitely been a real shift. And it's been one of those places that I keep on saying it's like you're surfing the world, because there's different waves of how it's come. And being across the street from the YMI, and we haven't actually been in our offices very often, but having that connection, and especially with Dewana, and then Jefferson has really been just supporting both organizations so phenomenally. But between the two of them, they've been two of the brightest stars and lights in my 2020. And we've been using events since Leaf started to bring people together from all different communities from all over the world to create platforms for voices that are often unheard. And we do it mainly through the music and arts, but a lot of other different conversations and places where people can step in easily and then really find both the best of themselves, connect to other people that they don't have proximity to in their regular daily lives, and also feel like they're a global citizen and connect to the world. So it has really shifted our perspective of not having actual events. And thankfully, we've been able to do a couple of small things, but we're really excited. In the last 24 hours, we kind of hit some new paths forward in creating Reimagine 2020 together. Dewana and I started on this journey, I think in early June, when we realized that downtown and Goombay weren't going to be able to happen as it was. And we've been having weekly conversations, and it's really been, once we kind of landed on an actual name, it lifted our spirits. And that's what we hope, that both it will help support both organizations and the community, and then people in ways as we all find new ways to walk forward together and remember the really powerful pieces of the movement that we've been in this summer for Black Lives Matter and for equity, and making sure that as we also step into more comfortable places, that we don't forget where we've been and carry that message forward.
So last year I had a bit of an aha moment when, after a bit of a kerfuffle over equity and city funding of festivals, Shindig on the Green invited several organizations, and Blue Ridge Pride was one of them, to come to their festival. And I took them up on it. My team was angry because they thought I was putting them in harm's way, but we boothed there, and halfway through, and for viewers who may not know, Shindig, it tends to have a very strong white representation. And at least by appearances, socially conservative representation. So my team was very worried. They actually got an applause from the entire park halfway through the festival, and they just started crying. And I just saw what happened when you, instead of a stadium full of people shouting hatred, this was a very different act that suddenly made people feel free and safe to walk around in an environment they didn't feel safe in. And that's when I realized how sacred shared spaces can be in either healing people or separating them. And it occurs to me that maybe moving to a virtual environment offers an opportunity to do more of that crossover. Is that a theme for you in putting this together?
I tend to see that crossover as being important, whether it's virtual or in person.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times in in-person events, we do them in silos. We do them as this my thing versus this is for community, and this is our thing. And so I feel like this just opens the door for us to think about how we collaborate moving forward, not to be restricted to doing this type of collaboration virtually, but in general, how we collaborate and who we collaborate with, what voices need to be at the table. I think a lot of times when we do these events, it's one voice, one way of doing it, one agency, and it should be more collaborative. We should all be connecting our agencies and how we work together and showing community, like if we want a united community, then we need to be united in our work as we service community. And I feel like this is just the opportunity to show that it can happen. A lot of people fear collaboration because they're like, it's hard work and and it's terrible. But like, honestly, I can say, like, not to say that it's the easiest thing on the planet, but like through our process, through this process with partnering with LEAP, it has been fairly smooth. Like if we disagree, we go back to the drawing board. You know what I mean? Until we get to a space where both agencies are heard and feeling comfortable and happy with the result. And instead of it's one or the other, it's always this: who's in the lead, who's the lead agency, or who's the lead representative, like that power struggle. And it in true collaboration is just not that power struggle because everything is shared equally. And I really feel like with this collaboration, we have done a great job of identifying that could be an issue and addressing it and making sure that both voices are considered at the table, that the voices are really being considered and we're weighing everything equally. So I'm like, I think this just highlights the opportunity for us to do better as we move forward and how we collaborate, and knowing that it is not about each specific agency. It's about the community that we serve as agencies and how we do that together.
Jefferson, do you feel that there are things, speaking as a creative director, that you're able to do in virtual space, effects or outcomes you're able to create that you probably couldn't do in a physical space?
I think what is most interesting about taking something that is traditionally in person and making it virtual is that you are creating something that you know someone's going to watch later, and you know someone's going to watch again. And so I actually had a conversation with someone earlier today who's working on programming, and I said, we have the freedom to be bold because we don't have 10 seconds to get someone's attention. This is a video that's going to live online for the rest of eternity. And so especially, you know, especially in this conversation, as a queer identifying Black man, a lot of times how I advocate for myself can be somewhat timid because I want to make sure that the person I'm talking to is at least open to the conversation. But if I have the freedom of knowing that you're going to rewatch this video, how I show up in the world is completely limitless, because I know that if you didn't get it the first time, you can get it the second time. If you get it the second time, you can get it the third time. And if you loved it the first time, you can rewatch it and then you can share it. And so I think being online has a lot of really amazing opportunities because we aren't limited by capacity. We're not limited by timing. So no one is going to miss something because they were in the bathroom or they were standing in line for a concession. Everything that's happening, you are going to get to experience as much as possible. And you're going to get to experience it for free on the internet. That's amazing. It's the most equitable thing we could do is to advocate for marginalized communities and to offer that to the world free of charge.
Wow, that's powerful. Hey, Jennifer, I was thinking, so you started producing festivals 25 years ago, and I imagine, you know, while we're talking about all the disruptions this year, your festivals in Asheville 25 years ago were probably very different than they were even 5 years ago. With all the technology, the corporatization of at least some festivals. Does your arc of history, your sense of history, if you look back on that, what would you see 5 years from now in Asheville? And as Jefferson said, we can check in 5 years from now and see if you were right.
Well, it's so random. I literally just looked down and here was our very first poster ever 25 years ago. I don't even know why I have it sitting here. But I think of course it's very different. And when we started Leaf, things were more siloed in the festival world in terms of people either did, and Dewana referred to this a little bit, people either did a specific, old time music festival, or they did a specific type of genre and experience. And so when we started Leaf and went to do a sampling of all these different experiences, I had people tell me, you can't do it. You can't put poetry into a festival. You can't put healing arts into it. You can't mix all these genres. And so fast forward, 15 years into it, and that's what you really saw a lot of festivals becoming, is that really beautiful mix of experience. And in terms of the virtual piece, which Jefferson, and I think he had to just tap out now for his virtual life, but he puts it so well of terms of we're always moving forward and adapting to new shifts. And it's not easy. And especially for those of us, it's probably a lot easier, I would assume, for people who have been raised in an environment where virtual is more of their lives. And so for us, creating this new level of an equitable experience for people to join all over the world, like when we did V-Leaf in May, we had 18,000 different viewers and they were from all over. And it is a different type of engagement. But right now I still feel like I'm sitting here with you, Tina, and with you, Dewana, and going back to another piece that you had touched on in terms of collaboration. All three of us are executive directors. And in this particular 2020, it has not been an enviable position, for sure. And having someone that you can go to in a collaboration has felt like having a teammate in a way that I hadn't experienced very often at that, in this particular dynamics. So I'm not sure I totally answered your question, but the arc of festivals has changed dramatically. And also, once festivals are super expensive and very low return in terms of financially, unless you're doing a lot of people, which Leaf has we just never had that format. A lot of people think we do. We just haven't. It's always been a really small format with a lot of creative resourcing and a lot of people giving to make it happen. Once festivals became more popularized and then more commercialized, what it has done is not allowed as much room for small platforms for people to really be able to share their voice in more authentic ways. And so I've been grateful that we've been able to carry Leaf forward to be able to offer that connection, and hopefully we'll continue to be able to.
That's fantastic. Let me bring this to business. Dewana, when can you give us an update on YMI, both the center and other activities? If people want to know when will it open or what's going on there?
So the YMI is open. We're actually working on hosting some racial justice artwork within our space. And so we're setting that up, and that'll be open for tours for our Reimagine 2020 event. So people can come down into our space in our art gallery. We just opened our Community Impact Center where the Block Off Biltmore used to be. So that will be the YMI's new Community Impact Center, where we'll be working with community and locals to do programming and activities and events through that space. Today we launched our $5 million capital campaign for the upfits of our building and to clear the debt that's on the building, but also to provide 2 years of sustainability funding for our agency to get us to self-sustainability, which is my 3-year goal as executive director. I'm in my 2nd year. So I'm really on the run right now, but we're in a better place, and we're reviving the legacy. Like, our building is amazing. Our history is amazing. We're 127 years old this year. And so to have that space that was built by Black people for Black people and being in the position that I'm in, it's just been beautiful. Like, we're in a beautiful space. We're open to community, and we do require masks. You have to wear your mask. We got sanitation stations everywhere. Um, but, but we're open, and we just, Nore Collective just launched their collective gift shop. And so we were able to put a Black-owned business into our Sweet C. So I'm super excited about that. Like, just good things happening. Our co-working space just opened for entrepreneurs to utilize space in downtown Asheville. And so we're really moving in a great direction right now. And I'm just excited about what the future holds for the agency.
Fantastic. Jennifer, what of Leaf? What's the update for the public?
Ooh, okay. So I'm definitely letting Dewana's energy across the street inspire me and revive me. It has been quite a year for sure, and we opened Leaf Global Arts Center downtown on the block in the historic Club Del Cardo. And as I think I mentioned this the first time we had talked, but it is really a sacred space down here on the block, and in reviving the space, we've tried to give a lot of love and care to both the history, the present, and the future. And Damian Davis was the builder who his grandparents used to actually come here to the Del Cardo, and this was their spot. His mom used to come here, and she's our board chair, and providing those connections in new ways and integrating a lot of curators that come from both our local community and as well as from, far away, or that from our Leaf community. We've got countries represented here, from curators from Ivory Coast to South Africa to Iran and beyond. So what we're doing right now in terms of, we will reopen starting this weekend for visitors, general visitors on Saturdays and Sundays from 12 to 6. And, like we're all doing, mask up. And we have Leaf Global Classroom that is happening here on a daily basis right now. It just started, and a donor helped us create that. That's in partnership with Christine Avery. That is right down the block at Mount Zion Church, and the kids are able to go back and forth for both their classroom and Zoom support, as well as in the afternoons. They're coming here for their cultural arts classes in music, hip hop, and drumming, and lots of different violin, all different pieces according to all the teaching artists that are here to support the kids. We are open by reservation for pods of learning or experiences, and we can bring in whatever curators you need. And then Marcia, who's our community engagement director, she's got a lot of great programs going. There's a Music for the Movement, which is a hip hop collective experience happening. We love local music nights, and looking at all the different ways to get our artists, keeping them thriving through both our Schools and Streets and international program. And then Jefferson, who was on the call, he just opened up his shop downstairs, Jawbreaking, which is not only his promotional piece that he's supporting so many of us in town, but he has a great store, and it feels like you're in a New York fantastic store. It's got the good vibe, and we just really look forward to not only in this Reimagine 2020, and at Leaf, we're at a pretty crucial moment here. We had been in a campaign and we paused it for COVID. And we also are in that vital fundraising platform to go forward. And we, really want to be here to continue the work that we've been doing and creating those platforms to bring people together through the global music and arts. And a lot of educational pieces. And a lot of pieces, not only are we here physically, but the Leaf mission comes to life on a daily basis in a couple of different countries in small programs for cultural preservation, and then also within our community, working with schools and partners. And so a lot of times you may not see it directly, and that's why the events have been so great, because that is the one place that brings all those pieces together. So, you know, right now I'm really looking to both of you all for that great energy as we reassess and find those silver linings, and also look to how we want to go forward and really bring back, you know, make sure the magic traditions and the pieces that help all of us rise up and have a place where we feel the best about ourselves stays, and we also find new ways to collaborate and strengthen these platforms and these connections and the proximity.
Well, I thank you two for this collaboration. This is I'm looking forward to it. And I do hope this is just a sign of many more cross-agency collaborations in the community. I agree with you, Dewana. That's really important. It's a big opportunity. And thank you both.